Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video we'll talk about the resurrection of Ichigo and the Vizard, meaning does Ichigo has a resurrection or not, and if he does, how does it work? And so we'll discuss all of this by talking about the Arankara's resurrection and the Bankai of the Shinigami. So first of all, I think that in order to try to give an answer to this topic, we must start from the definition we have about the Arankara, because the concept of resurrection appeared with them. So the Arankaras, as we know, are hollows who remove their mask to gain Shinigami powers, so that their appearance changes to a form closer to humans and Shinigamis, while their original power, which is the power of the hollow, is sealed in their swords, which are also called Zanpakuto. Therefore, it can be said that the Arankara Zanpakuto is nothing but a container for the original power of the Arankara, which is the power of the hollow, and this original power includes their true form before becoming Arankara, as well as their hollow powers and techniques. That's why the original power is called resurrection. And Urahara said that the resurrection is similar to the Bankai of Shinigami, although there is a big difference between the Zanpakuto of the Shinigami and the Zanpakuto of the Arankara. For example, the Shinigami Zanpakuto has two releases: the release of Shikai, who can be considered the release of a small portion of the Shinigami's power sealed in the sword, while the Bankai is the release of all the power of the Zanpakuto. More than that, releasing this power doesn't change the nature of the Shinigami's Reiatsu. Unlike Arankara, as Urahara said in chapter 666, the Reiatsu of the Arankara is not the same as the Reiatsu when they release the resurrection. At that stage, they return their origins as hollows. And also, among the differences we have, there is a nature of the Zanpakuto. The Shinigami Zanpakuto is essentially a rational entity, and the spirits of the Zanpakuto is able to communicate with its owner. Unlike the Zanpakuto of the Arankara, which is, as I said, is just a container for their hollow powers, so that once the resurrection is released, the Zanpakuto disappears. Of course, there are exceptions, such as some Arankaras have special weapons like Baragan or Noichora, but we're talking here about the general rule. On the other hand, I could have said that resurrection is a release that belongs to the Arankara only, meaning that resurrection is a release of a person who is hollow and becomes an Arankara, and therefore when resurrection is released, he only restores his true powers as a hollow. But as long as there is another character in the manga who is not originally a hollow and have a resurrection, and I'm speaking here about Tosen, then I can say that almost every Shinigami who has a hollow power can have a resurrection. That's why Kubo, when they asked him about this matter, could the Vizard in Ichigo have a resurrection, he said yes, it is possible. Therefore, as initial idea, I can say that the Shinigami's resurrection is the stage after the mask, where the Shinigami can extract all the powers of the hollow inside him, so that it is embodied on their bodies. And as analogy, we can consider that the mask is the Shikai of the hollow, and the resurrection is the Bankai, where the hollow releases all of its powers, so that this resurrection has a name and can change the appearance, and in most cases it can make the Zanpakuto temporarily disappear. And here we will talk about the Vizard in Ichigo, taking into account that Ichigo is a special case, not like the Vizard, which we will talk about at the end of this video. But let's talk about the prominent example we have, which is Tosen. Tosen can be said to be similar to the Vizard, because they, and I mean here the Vizard and Tosen, obtained the power of the hollow after they formed their Zanpakuto and obtained Shikai, and some of them even Bankai. Therefore, it can be said that the power of the hollow that's inside them is separate from the power of their Zanpakuto. And I think that Tosen was distinguished from the Vizard by something that they didn't have, which is that he took the power of the hollow voluntarily from Aizen, and therefore there is no doubt that Aizen also gave him information on how to control this power quickly and master it in the required way, unlike the Vizard, who didn't even know what is his power in the beginning. That's why they spent decades trying to figure out and control a power they never wanted in the first place. Therefore, in my opinion, this difference is what explains why Tosen had a greater control over his hollow powers through wearing the mask and releasing the resurrection. And if we come to Tosen's release of resurrection, we will notice that the name of the resurrection is related to the basic name of Tosen's Zanpakuto, which is the cricket insect. Therefore, this is one of the most important characteristics of resurrection. For example, Grimijo, his resurrection is Panchera, and we'll see its incarnation on Grimijo. And the same applies to the Gamuza of Nell, and we also have the Mantis. and how it was incarnated on nature, and many characters have the same thing. Therefore, based on what I have just said, I can say that the resurrection of the Vizard will be a complete change on the physical level, such that their forms will embody the meaning of the name of their Zanpakuto. For example, I might tell you that Love's resurrection will be in the form of a goblin, since the name of his Zanpakuto is Long-Nosed Goblin. Of course, even if the Zanpakuto doesn't have the name of an animal or insect, the resurrection form will have something to do with the name of the Zanpakuto. And here we reach the important and final point in the matter, Ichigo's resurrection. As I said, Ichigo remains a special case because it's not like an Arankara or like a Vizard. For example, the Arankara broke their masks and obtained the power of the Shinigami after that they were hollows, and the Vizard and Tosen also obtained the power of the hollow, and they were originally Shinigamis and had a Zanpakuto. But Ichigo, basically, he was born with the power of the hollow, which is not separate from his Shinigami power, and even formed his own Zanpakuto. And personally, I said this in several previous videos, that I consider White in himself an Asauchi. He's just not a creation of Nimaya. Asauchi had the characteristics of the hollow, containing all of Ichigo's Shinigami power and the form of Ichigo's Zanpakuto. Therefore, if we're going to talk about the release of Ichigo's resurrection, in my opinion, this release should be pure hollow power, far from any external power, and this is not possible in the case of Ichigo, since the power of the hollow is combined with his Shinigami powers, and he also have the Quincy power. But I can say that the form in which he appeared against Elikura is the closest form to what we can call resurrection, because if we return to the fight between Ichigo and Elikura, we will notice some things that are present in the release of the resurrection. For example, when Elikura was fighting Ichigo, Elikura was sensing a Shinigami Ryatsu from Ichigo, but when the hollow mode appeared, Ichigo's form changed completely, and this is one of the basics of resurrection. Also, and this is the most important, Ichigo's Ryatsu became a hollow Ryatsu, and Elikura felt that what was in front of him was not Ichigo, but rather a hollow being, in terms of Ryatsu and even actions, and techniques like using the Sonido or launching Grady Zero. And as I said in previous videos, that what happened in that mode is that the Shinigami power of Ichigo that was released in a great amount had boosted the hollow abilities of White, and therefore I say that Ichigo's mode that was against Elikura is an incomplete resurrection, because Ichigo's hollow power is combined with his Zanpakuto. Moreover, even when the power of the hollow got out of control, Ichigo's Zanpakuto was still present. As for the Horn of Salvation, I also consider it an incomplete resurrection, because Ichigo at that time had a mixed form between his powers, the Quincy and the Shinigami power, as happened in the Bankai, unlike in front of Elikura, who was literally like a hollow. In the end, guys, I say that Ichigo doesn't have a complete resurrection, but rather he has a combination of resurrection and the power of Shinigami Zanpakuto, since the power of hollow is combined within his Shinigami powers, unlike the Arankara or the Vizard, who have a second power separate from the primary power, and therefore they can embody it as they want. In the end, guys, tell me what you think about this topic, tell me your opinions in the comments, and see you guys in my next video.